Ready? So fun. Can I get that job?
Yeah. Join the scene.
My name's Katie Parman. I teach science at Roosevelt High School, and I've been teaching for 12 years. So good.
Yeah. Great. Very good.
All right. So I have a class. I teach 5 or 6 classes, and I had a student call another student gay. And we were kind of transitioning into something else, and I turned to the kid that said it and said, "We don't say that in here." And then the other kid kept saying, "He called me gay, he called me gay." I'm like, it's okay. He's not going to say that anymore. Let's just move on. And he just kept freaking out, like really upset that this kid called him gay. And I just kept saying, "It's okay, let's just move on. Go up to the board, you need to be writing this down, whatever." And he's like, "Well, what would you do if someone called you a lesbian?" I said, "Well, I'd be okay with it because I am a lesbian." And I'm pretty sure that's the only time all year that the entire class was silent. And another student yelled from across the room, "You idiot!" So it's obvious most of them had figured it out. And this kid, like, I just don't think he was thinking about what he was saying. He was trying to make a point. Well, I guess I always knew. I mean, looking back on it, of course, I always knew. I was 16 when I started dating girls, but I didn't come out to anyone until I was 18 or 19. So I knew I needed to leave Portland. I knew I needed to go to college. I knew college was what I needed to do to figure out who I was and all of that. And I just needed to get to college before anyone found out, was what I had decided. So I kept myself very busy in high school. I played 3 sports. I was student body president. I was involved in every club because then I could just tell people like, "Oh, I'm too busy to date. I'll just date in high school, in college." And I mean, no one was really surprised when I came out. I think it was my junior year. There were some new PE teachers that were lesbians, and people were awful to them. I mean, that was the thing. Like, I saw how people treated the women that were perceived to be lesbians, and it wasn't kind. So I just deflected and probably said some terrible things about people in order to like make sure nobody was thinking maybe I might be a lesbian. So I graduated from college. I had a degree in biology, and I wanted to do political work and started working on environmental issues and lived in San Francisco for a while, in Chicago, and made it back to Portland. And my second to last political job was being the statewide field director for the second No 9 campaign, which is actually all about schools. So the measure, if it passed, would have not allowed schools to get state funding if they in any way said that homosexuality was at all positive or neutral. You had to completely say that homosexuality is terrible. If a student came to a counselor and said, "I think I'm gay," they would, reparative therapy is basically all you could offer them. And so I started working with the GSAs and actually went back to Franklin High School in 2000 and went to their GSA meeting with 40 kids, and it blew me away that so much had changed. And left that experience really glad that we'd defeated the measure and everything, but realizing I didn't really want to do political work anymore. So I'd promised a professor in college, I'd minored in education, majored in biology, that if I ever was at a crossroads, I would consider becoming a teacher. So. All the way down. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I decided that the way that I convinced myself that I wasn't being a hypocrite was by deciding that I was a service provider and that my students were the people I was providing service to. And so if I were a customer service representative, I wouldn't come out to everyone I talked to on the phone. So why do I need to come out to all my students? Then it was either that year or the next year, I was at a training and we were doing some diversity training, and the people talking were talking about how letting students know who you are is really important. So sharing a little bit about yourself, sharing a little bit about your family, that making these types of connections connects to students and makes them feel okay talking about their family and their experiences. And so I raised my hand and I said, I have a hard time with this because as a lesbian, it's hard to think about that and decide about that because I know I have students sitting in my class that are Jehovah's Witness. I know I have students sitting in my class whose families don't support my quote-unquote lifestyle, and that there's a lot more to me making that decision than a straight person making that decision. And so they were nice and they thanked me, and then someone from the district came up to me and told me it would be professional suicide for me to ever come out if I want to work in high poverty schools, which is the only place I want to work. That's why I became a teacher. I know she didn't speak for the district. I know she was really saying that out of concern for me, but it stuck with me for a really long time. So I was at that school for 11 years. I came out to kids, individually every once in a while, but when I moved up to the high school this year, and I just decided that this was silly. For goodness sake, look at me. Like, it's not like they don't know. And that having an open conversation about it is going to be more meaningful than telling people I don't talk about my personal life. Even though I talk about my kids and I talk about my dogs and playing soccer and these other things, there was just always this hole in what I chose to talk about. I have a picture of my family on my desk, and it is what it is. It's not a secret, but it's not something that I haven't figured out how to start the first day of school and be like, hello, students, here's a little bit about me. And I'd love to get to that point where it's just something you share at the beginning of the year and it's over and it's done with. But it's hard because you have to continually come out, right? As you get a new student, as you start a new school year, as you whatever. And coming out takes me back to being 16 and being 18 and losing friends because they weren't ready to have a gay friend. And there's always that sense of like, oh my God, what if they reject me? When they'll reject me, they're kids, they'll reject me for 100 different reasons other than that. And then it was right before spring break. And so I'm in the back of my room and my tables are, I've got lots of high school students in a tiny little classroom and my tables are really close together and I'm in the back corner and these two girls just like push their chairs back. And so I can't get out. And they're like, we have some questions for you. I'm like, oh, okay. And they just kept scooting kept asking more and more questions and was just scooting their chairs back. And they just wanted to know. And, some of the questions were inappropriate. Like, how did I get pregnant? It's like, that's none of your business. But a lot of it was just like, they wanted to know if I had a partner and what my partner did. And, are my kids mine? And they're just curious. They just want to know. And it made me realize that, there's always those couple people who are going to be a jerk about it. But for the most part, most kids are pretty accepting and understanding, especially in high school. So. It's amazing to me how many of my straight colleagues don't even think about the fact that they talk about their husband as they talk to their students about, my husband and I went wine tasting, whatever it is. My husband and I went to my grandson's soccer game. And they don't even think about that they're constantly reinforcing that they're straight. And I don't know, I don't think they shouldn't be able to talk about that, but I should be able to talk about the same things and not worry about it. I think my oldest son was in kindergarten and someone called someone gay or said that's so gay, and the kindergarten teacher stopped class, put them all in a circle, got the counselor. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't this instantaneous, but dealt with it right away and had a conversation about what does that word mean? What does it mean to be gay? What does all this mean? And why is that word hurtful? And my son just raised his hand, I have two moms, and was totally fine with it. And so the teacher told us about it, and I want to get to that place where every kid can just talk about their family, every educator can talk about their family, and we just acknowledge that all of our families are different. The kids, they're going to be the ones pushing pushing and demanding. And as we get old, we're all good with it. And so it's just, it's going to start to shift. And I think it's shifted a lot faster than I could have ever imagined. So I can't even imagine what 10 years is going to give us. It's crazy. The boys are watching TV.
Okay, I'll go hang out.
And we're close to being.
We're almost done.
Okay.
We've exhausted the topic.
We talked about being gay a lot.